Okay, hey, thank you, Jackson. Hello, everyone. This is the power of calendar-based marketing, and I'm really excited to kind of talk about a different way to think about advertising and marketing from the traditional workflow or the traditional way we usually think about it, and talk about some of the benefits, some of the unusual opportunities that come up, and then also to give you 7 ways that you can implement this today, tomorrow, this week, this month, to really supercharge and increase your rate of conversion, increase your overall results of your advertising, and look at new types of drive periods that you can do to really make growth and progress in your company or your brand or your product. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start with a little bit of an explanation of how really I discovered calendar-based marketing and why I think it's a highly underutilized form of marketing that I think 5 or 10 years from now everyone will do, and how I think you can get started with it right away. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's see here. And what you're going to see from the screen, and hopefully everyone can see that, is a slide deck on the power of calendar-based marketing. There's the title slide. Let me know if you can't see that. And what I'm going to do is also here is kind of just move the window over, and Jackson's going to kind of let me know if there's questions that come in so that we can answer them. And just to sort of set the stage and talk a little bit about how I became, for really the past 20 years, a practitioner of calendar-based marketing. Here's kind of like 4 slides on that, and the rest will be, I promise, all about you. So really, right now, as part of Top Global, which is an agency network of 12 agencies, we have a variety of agencies that all use calendar-based marketing in different ways. So Top Data, our data packaging agency, creates data that is timely and relevant to what's going on in the cultural calendar or the economic calendar, or right now, the pandemic calendar. So Top Data is a data packaging company, but it's actually all built around what's happening, what's generating news, and it creates data at the speed of breaking news. On the other hand, another agency like Top Creative, which Top Creative is a creative agency. We make advertisements, we make experiential campaigns, we make all sorts of activations. Well, Top Creative, we've really adjusted and said, you know what, let's make creative messaging. Let's create a narrative that is also relevant at these peak times when we can reach consumers or customers. So this is a little bit about our range of agencies, but we've had actually calendar-based marketing infuse all of them in how we think about the peak time to engage our desired audience. We do this for a few different types of companies. So we have scrappy startups, and we have a lot of clients that came from Y Combinator and Techstars and 500 startups. We helped grow brands that were small that are a bit bigger now, like Harmless Harvest, which is like the #1 coconut water in Whole Foods. It's really tasty. You should try it if you haven't. And then we do a lot of work like this for brands like Budweiser or Coca-Cola or McDonald's or American Express, helping them use these time triggers in a powerful way to get more conversion, more results, better ROI from their marketing or advertising spend. And then all of this kind of dates back to how I learned how to do calendar-based marketing in the first place. And that's me, age 21, excuse me. And one of the things that I did when I first wrote and self-published this book was I had to actually think about how to get people to want to read it. And one of the things I started learning about was I created this event on the calendar that was called the kickoff of financial aid season. It was the day that you could start applying for financial aid. And really what I did was I actually looked at the federal deadlines for filing your FAFSA form, your free application for federal student aid, and then made that a countdown clock with that moment. And what I really learned from doing the book and talking about the urgency to apply for financial aid was suddenly this kickoff of financial aid season was covered by 300 newspapers every year. And everyone wanted to talk to me. And everyone wanted to know about the book and said, okay, if financial aid season is kicking off, what do we need to do now? So that was an early foray into calendar-based marketing. We're going to actually talk about the power of holidays shortly. But that's how I learned how to do it. And with the book, and through that and a lot of TV and radio interviews, a lot of speaking tours. We sold 2.5 million copies of the book. And I went on, I think, 5,000 TV and radio interviews in 3 years. And that calendar-based marketing was an important part. So I started learning the power of time triggers. And then finally, The final thing I'll say, and I'll share this with you a little bit, is we also, our PR Hacker division, created National Today. And you can find it online at nationaltoday.com. I'll show you a little bit later about what this is, but it's actually the world's most popular platform for driving consumers to take action in a single day. Essentially, we aggregated all of the interesting, unusual, and buzzworthy holidays in the world, put it on one platform, and became the most popular platform for this in the world, with around 5 million unique visitors per month. And we're actually now used as a source of truth by 10,000 media outlets for what happens on what day. And we'll talk about some of the implications about that, but it's really a platform that you can use to implement calendar-based marketing in a really proactive way with both B2C consumers and B2B customers. So with that being said, let's jump right in. And a great place to start, and there's a little bit more about National Today, is talking about the traditional advertising workflow. And so if you ever work in advertising or you've implemented advertising campaigns, you often think in this way. So the first thing you do is you think about, okay, who's the right person I want to target, right? Who is our ideal audience? Where can we add a lot of value with our product? Let's define that person. And what you do is you create a series, and it doesn't have to be just one type, there could be many. So you create a series, a persona or a series of personas. So usually when you do a traditional advertising workflow, you start saying, okay, who do I really want to reach? And let's define that persona. And then once you've done that, you do the second step, which is you focus on the right message. So you got the right person, now you got the right message. So you say, okay, now let's craft content that speaks to that audience, right? Let's do that in a way that we create an emotional resonance. And so in advertising, we would call that creative. So that's the second thing we do. So we go from the right person to the right message. We go from the persona to the creative. And then the third thing you do in the traditional advertising workflow is you focus on the right time. So what you do is you say, okay, we've got the right person, we've got the right message. When are we going to reach them? You know, is that when they're coming back from work and they're kind of flipping on the TV, watching the evening news? Is that when they're getting ready for that day? Is that in the car ride home? Okay, let's do some radio advertising. And so we try to find the right time to reach them, and that's called media flighting. So that is the traditional way to think about it. We do that a ton for our clients. And we think like, okay, who's the right audience? Who's the right person? What's the right message? And then what's the right time? But what I want to suggest is that's a very effective way to move through a strategic thought process. But what if there was value in doing it another way? And so specifically, what if we reverse the order and prioritize timing as the foundational element of our marketing or advertising plan? What if we did that? What would happen? So again, here's the traditional advertising workflow. Step 1, right person. Step 2, right message. Step 3, right time. But what if we did this? This is the calendar-based workflow. And we said, instead of moving left to right, let's move right to left. So let's start with the right time. What is the peak time to reach our audience when we can convert at the greatest rate? And then once we have that peak time, what message really maximizes that time? What message really speaks to what's going on at that exact moment? And once we have the right time and the right message, then how do we target the right personas, the right people that can experience that message at this time and drive them to our desired goal? So it's all the same pieces, it's just prioritized in a different workflow, and that is calendar-based marketing. And so calendar-based marketing, my definition, is that the practice of targeting peak moments throughout the calendar year when a desired audience is most likely to engage or share or purchase. And so we put timing first, and what is interesting about that is it has some surprising consequences that we don't realize if we engage in the traditional advertising or marketing workflow. So here are some of those. Let me give you an example. The first thing it taps into is an emotion that a lot of psychologists have studied called loss aversion. What loss aversion is essentially that you have something and you don't want to lose it. That's more powerful than not having something and wanting to get it. They've tested this again and again, is that you have something you don't want to lose it. So I don't know how many of you have been like, you know, I don't know, maybe you're out, you know, in sort of pre-pandemic, you're out in the town and you like, you know, suddenly you're like, where's my cell phone? I don't know where it is. And like, and this is like a major event, and now it's an expensive device, but it's like the thought of losing what you have is worse than if it was actually just like, I need to get a cell phone, right? The thought of losing it is a lot more powerful. So what happens is when you start prioritizing time and timing, you start activating loss aversion more. And so you create time limits, create a sense of urgency, because users feel like they're going to lose out on an opportunity to get a special deal. So it's like, what happens is that if the deal is now, if it's today, you have it, you own it, it's yours. So if you don't capitalize on it, you lose it. It's gone. And that's different, right, than actually trying to get something that you don't have. Put another way, a coupon. Coupons work. Why? Because it's something that you have. And if you don't use the coupon, you're going to lose it. And that's more powerful than just getting a discount you don't have yet when you're given that coupon. So what's interesting, and we'll talk about this more, is when we start talking about calendar-based marketing, we start prioritizing time, then suddenly loss aversion becomes a powerful emotion. We can talk about how that works to motivate a desired audience to do something. Now, here's a second surprising effect. It actually, when you start thinking about time, prioritizes where in the time cycle you might try to sell a product. So there's a lot of researchers out of different universities, I think this one was out of University of Utah, that started looking at, well, relative to your payday, right? When you get your paycheck, okay, yeah, you got more cash, more to spend, feeling good. And then at the end, right before the payday, you've spent a lot of that cash. There's less money on hand. You're waiting for the next thing. How does that shift your prioritization of what you want to buy? And what researchers really identified is there's two key periods. There's the promotion period. So right after you're paid, you have more money. You're focused on promotion-focused products and services. Essentially, those are the ones that make your life better. So you're like, okay, and my pocket is full, my wallet's feeling pretty heavy, let's make my life better. And suddenly those kind of products convert at a higher rate. But then the flip side is, okay, it's been a long time since payday. It's coming up soon. Suddenly you prioritize prevention-focused products, those that preserve your standard of living, those that help you maintain. So this is pretty interesting, right? If we take this calendar-based approach, we do things a little bit different than the traditional workflow, then suddenly we're very cognizant of time. And suddenly we start thinking, oh, what is the peak period in our moment? Now, you might say that's a consumer example. Does this work for B2B? Well, it absolutely works for B2B. If you've ever tried to market or sell in B2B, where companies are in their annual planning and their fiscal calendar makes a huge deal, right? So suddenly you gotta sell through that new product, that new service that they haven't done before, right? They gotta make their condition better. Well, might have a good window right after they get their new budget for the new year. They're spending a bit more freely. Oh, but now it's the end of the fiscal year. They're using a lot of budgets. Is it just that they have less money? Or is it also that they're trying to make this last? They're trying to sustain just to make it to that next point in time. This works for B2B too. And then third, another surprising consequence is we can look at e-commerce. So here's the question. What % of site visitors add a product to their cart on average? So if we look at the e-commerce average, it's about 4%. Just across industries, people visit your site, they're gonna add a product to their shopping cart. We're talking about every product, right? Just on average, good products, bad products, everything in between. In certain industries, you can push that a little bit higher. For instance, in beauty, we do a lot of work in the beauty industry. You can maybe push that to 7%, tend to be a little bit higher. Furniture, bigger purchase, gonna be a little bit lower, about 2 to 3%. That's typically where you play in e-commerce. But look at these conversion rates on different time triggers and certain holidays. So Black Friday, those of you celebrate, and it's not just in the US anymore, it's really spread around the world, 24% typically. About 1 out of 4 site visitors is gonna add something to their cart. So there's something powerful about thinking about timing and, ooh, it's Black Friday, and oh, there must be a deal, and oh, I gotta take action, I'm not gonna get it tomorrow, or at least not after Cyber Monday. It changes things. And then Singles Day, you may or may not be familiar. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. It's the biggest day of commerce in the history of the world. It actually happens predominantly in China. And so Singles Day, which is November 11th, is this big shopping day. They take it one step further. It's even beyond Black Friday. 30%. So close to 1 out of 3 people who visit any e-commerce site in that day are adding something to their shopping cart. So that's really powerful. So what have we just seen here? We say, suddenly we talk about calendar-based marketing. It's like now we're dealing with emotions that really are kind of intrinsic, that are like sort of like animalistic, that are roots of the evolutionary way that we don't want to lose stuff. And then suddenly we think about calendar-based marketing. We're like, okay, where are we in the cycle of thinking? Where are we in these natural cycles for an individual or for a company? Are there peak times where a product can sell? And then third, now we're even looking in a macro level, right? Are there periods of the year? Is it just like someone asked me, is Singles Day a made-up holiday? Well, true, it wasn't, it's not, it hasn't been around for thousands of years. It's been around for mostly the past decade. But if, billions of people celebrate it, is it made up or not? Well, if they're activating, if it's driving to a result, if suddenly adding to the shopping cart goes from 30% to 4%, seems pretty real to me, right? So these are all different ways of understanding the implications. And let's take that through and talk about it further and talk about your 7 action steps. So I'm going to look at Singles Day a little bit more closely. I think it's a useful example to kind of show calendar-based marketing in action. Before I do that, Jackson, any questions, comments, things that are confusing, this idea of traditional workflow and calendar-based marketing workflow, anything that anyone's commented or you want to clarify yourself, Jackson?
Yeah, I would love to see, and this sort of goes back to the idea of having a truly interactive webinar chat. If you haven't seen yet, down at the bottom of your Zoom window, you have the option to click on the chat button there, and you can change your settings so that it's all panelists and attendees. Go ahead and post any questions that you have for Ben, and we can bring those out, and he can sort of discuss what questions you have. Anything you want to hear more about, etc. One question we have from Alan that I have a feeling we're going to answer here in just a second is, what is Singles Day? And
okay.
Alan, I think we're going to be getting deep into that one. Really a fascinating case here that Ben's
okay, so first of all, let me give the quick definition, then we'll kind of talk about its application to calendar-based marketing. So Singles Day, I mentioned, is the biggest day of commerce in the history of the world. It's celebrated predominantly in China, but here's its origins. It actually originates on college campuses because of the date November 11, which if you write it out would be 1111, kind of special. And so some Chinese students on campuses over a decade ago said, you know what, we ought to make this a holiday. And it's called kind of all about celebrating yourself, right? So this is like the opposite of Valentine's Day, where you'd be like, let me get something special for someone else. This is all about like, treat yourself, right? Like this is like, I deserve it. I've worked hard this year. This has been a tough year. This is the day to reward me, right? So that's what Singles Day is. And it was this kind of little known holiday until a few Chinese companies and retailers started realizing that it was useful. This notion of treat yourself was a pretty good notion for having some commerce. And so it starts building up. And I'm going to show you some examples of what that is, but that's what Singles Day is. Alibaba is the company that really predominantly popularized it, but then lots of other companies jumped on board. And now it's like China, but it's kind of spread to Southeast Asia. You can occasionally see some things in Europe or North America. So it's really grown. But here's Singles Day at a glance. In a single day, November 11th, last year, it drove $70 billion in sales. Okay, 70 billion. That's why I said it's the biggest day of commerce in the history of the world. Many times greater, actually, than Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined. Alibaba's sales on that Singles Day, and if you think like Amazon Prime Day is impressive, this is many multiples of Amazon Prime Day, is $38.4 billion last year, so a bit over half. The time on this day, when I'm thinking from midnight, to get to $1 billion in sales, it took 1 minute and 6 seconds. Okay, that's how fast the commerce is happening. And then the time to get to 12 billion was done in an hour. So this is pent up demand. People are ready to buy. People are ready to shop. And the question is, why? Why? And so here is just, by the way, and look at Alibaba's single day sales since really 2009, which we could tell was nothing, right? And this is in billions, right? So you can see 2009, 2010 is pretty much nothing. Look at what has happened over this period of time. By the way, in case you're wondering, it's not just Alibaba, it's also JD.com now, which also grew these two. It's really the two of them plus everyone else jumping in. And what they realized was there was a power, and we'll talk more about this, how it relates to calendar marketing, in getting people to coordinate action at a moment in time. And that actually they were better off, instead of just being like, hey, we're going to have, our 2-month super sale, right? From January to November. It was actually better if they pent up demand and said, it's coming, it's here. Yeah, we got a little bit of a sale here, but wait for Singles Day, that actually they could then kind of use that pent up demand all in this moment in time. We'll talk about some of the things they did when we kind of go over the tips. But the key thing I want to say before we get into the 7 ways is that the power of calendar-based marketing is that at a moment in time where you can realize these gains, where you have loss aversion, because if you don't capitalize on this, you're going to lose out. If you can focus marketing and focus advertising at this moment, and by the way, is it an accident that November 11th is an important day? Well, it's also leading into a winter shopping season as well. So it's actually a moment in time to then get ready for all kinds of other things as well, right? It's why Black Friday and Cyber Monday are where they are on the calendar. So all of those things come together and can generate a ton of sales. We're going to look at that more, but the point of this is, for Alibaba, it's not just persona, then message, then timing. It's timing. Then we'll roll out message and persona. And I think more people ought to think like that. So 7 ways to leverage calendar-based marketing. I want to give you 7 things you can do right away. And yes, we'll talk about some holidays, but it's not just that. Basically, how can you prioritize timing to get better results from your marketing and advertising? And the first way is to lead with time triggers. Lead with time triggers. What I mean by that is, how can you look at whether it's a launch, which is a time trigger, is a moment in time. It could be a seasonal drive period. So right now we're coming into back to school period. There's a lot of uncertainty about school, but there's a lot of companies that sell in back to school. Or let's go counter cyclical. Let's say, oh, your drive period is the holiday season, Christmas time. Let's do Christmas in July. Let's go counter cyclical. But the first thing you need to do is think about, when are those peak periods when your potential audience is most receptive? And when are those peak periods when they are least receptive? And how do you start using time triggers to create a sense of urgency to address both of those periods? Here's an example from National Today. And actually, just to show you what I mean by National Today, or just to come out of the presentation for a second, I'm going to show you this. This is what National Today looks like. So we created this about 2 years ago, drove tens of thousands of links to it by helping media know what holiday it is. And so you can say that today is National Lemonade Day, but it's also National Radio Day. And it's also tomorrow's National Senior Citizens Day, as well as National Take Your Cat to the Vet Day. So these are all the kind of the holidays coming up. And you can see, if you go to the site, we feature upcoming holidays, and you can see, you can sort of know what's coming up in August, September, October. You can see different surveys results and see who in America loves waffles the most and everything else. And that's a topic for another day, about how we built up SEO to get this to 5 million unique visitors by using data combined with time triggers, something we can talk about later. And then it has some news about these holidays too. So to give you an idea, you look at August coming up, you can sort of see on the August page, there's everything from National Mustard Day to National Sisters Day, very viral holiday, to Tom Brady's birthday, okay, New England sports fans, to, let's do some other ones, National Women's Day, more cause-related holiday, National Spoil Your Dog Day. We celebrate this in our house, more than just that day, and many others. So this is kind of what National Today is, and the reason we created it was we did so many activations for brands. Like we did a National Drink Beer Day campaign for Budweiser. And we did, we'll talk about a little bit later, a doggy date night one we created for Milkbone. And we started doing dozens of these campaigns. We realized there was great power in these days, and there wasn't really a great site platform for it, so we built it. So just to kind of bring us back to the presentation, here is an example of the results from National Eat Ice Cream for Breakfast Day. And all we did, this is largely organic performance. So this is a very, very small paid ad buy, probably under $100. And you can see at this moment in time, we're targeting the overlap between people who love ice cream, people who are morning people and love breakfast. We're giving them a moment in time to celebrate. And you can see that even though here that it's a small ad buy, largely organic audience, we're getting 94,000 shares, right? That's happening from this by using this time trigger. So giving yourself a reason to be timely and relevant, leading with that time trigger can have gains on like your entire marketing portfolio, your entire marketing stack. This is a social media post, but we also see at a moment in time when you lead with the time trigger, all of our conversion rates go up. I call it the Taco Tuesday effect, and it's this. You could probably go have tacos with your friends whenever you want, right? You could just like text some folks and be like, hey, let's get some tacos, right? Sounds good. Let's go get it for dinner. But there's something that's different about it's Taco Tuesday. Like, yeah, Taco Tuesday, let's get some tacos. Like, let's go celebrate, right? There's something intrinsically different. And so it is that time trigger that adds value to the experience. And I need to unpack and do a little more research on the kind of the evolutionary biology side of why we sort of have this circadian rhythm, why we have this sense of like this daily cycle. It's related to that daily cycle. But there's something that's more fun about eating tacos on Taco Tuesday than just eating tacos with your friends. And so that's what this is. So that's kind of point number one. Point number one, lead with time triggers. Number two, and this is again 7 ways to kind of leverage calendar-based marketing. Build up demand to critical mass. When you look at Singles Day and how Alibaba does it, it's not that the day is coming. It's not just like 2 weeks out. Yeah, this is going to be a special sale we're doing. It's the entire year. This is building up and leading, and there's hints, and there's little breadcrumbs dropped. And even when they have other discounts and sales, they're still giving you a wink that, hey, Singles Day is there. So one of the things you want to do is that anytime you use a time trigger, it's not just like the day before. It's not just that moment. How do you lead people down a path to build up demand so it can be realized at that moment? So anytime you've seen online, maybe you've seen countdown clocks. Maybe you've seen like launch splash pages when like it's coming, don't know what to be. Anything you can do to hint, to tease, to build up demand helps you realize that demand better at that moment in time. That's point number two. Point number three, and again, a way to leverage calendar-based marketing is extend your sales window. So the other thing Alibaba does when they're leveraging Singles Day is they look at how do I have essentially 3 periods: the moment, during the moment, and the post moment. And how do I expand that and make that longer? So leading up to Singles Day in China, you'll have all sorts of things where like special events and concerts on the mall. There's not really a sales focus in that. It's just get people excited, but they're expanding that pre-window. Journalists are starting to cover what are the trends for this year? What are going to be on discount? How's that going to be different? Then, and the day of, they actually do a 4-hour telecast, and they bring in like celebrities, right? Like they brought in, like different like professional athletes and actors and others, and it's a big event, and they're leveraging that day. And then even after the day, there still is other opportunities. We're going to talk about how they use data in a sec. They're extending it there as well. So extend your time window. And if you know that like, oh, you have a product like we sell a lot at this point, how do you start thinking about extending and expanding it? Let me give you an example of how we did this using calendar-based marketing. So one of our clients is Milk-Bone, the US dog treat brand, iconic brand, been around for over 100 years. And they wanted to drive towards Valentine's Day. They want to remind people that you love your dog, and what would be better than getting your dog a present for Valentine's Day, and it ought to be a Milk-Bone dog treat. So they came to us and said, how can we use calendar-based marketing, seasonal activations? And we said, the first thing you got to do is you got to extend the window. So here was our solution. We created a new holiday. We did this on National Today called Doggy Date Night, and we did it on February 3rd. And we actually, to create this holiday, we have many tactics we use. We use a combination of influencer marketing, social marketing, and mass media PR to seed the holiday and get it spreaded. But we used 20 influencers, 7 paid, really small payments, under a couple $100, and 13 unpaid, to spread the word and create engagement. So the whole idea is the date is important. February 14th is Valentine's Day. But if we activate then, people don't have enough time to buy milk bones for their dogs. So let's extend and expand the window all the way up to February 3rd to remind them that you love your dog. You know, that's why other people love their dog too, but your relationship is special. And a great way to reward them is with that treat. So here's what's happened. Okay, these are the influencers posting, other people posting. You got whether it's mommy blog expert and certain people, taking a nap with their dog. They couldn't get out of bed, but it's doggy date night. And these are, all of the different kinds of posts. And because we use that day, doggy date night, which had never happened before, we created it and just seeded it with some influencers. Because we even concentrated and said within that day, we're going to add an additional time trigger and say there's a 2-hour window to participate in doggy date night. We had 1,000 people participate in that 2-hour window. That created an organic reach of 10 million people, 77 million impressions overall, and we generated over 7,400 different social posts. And oh, by the way, the hashtag trended on Twitter. So all of that was by taking this notion and concentrating it, and it was for a business purpose. But what we did is we leveraged calendar-based marketing. We led with the time, saying let's lead with this moment in time, this day on February 3rd, when we're going to get everyone to engage so that we can set up the sales cycle between then and February 14th. Then we worked on the message, and we said, okay, we got to engage pet parents, and we got to remind them that of course they love their dog and they want to express their love to their dog. What can we do? So again, we went from the time trigger, February 3rd. So we're working reverse in our traditional advertising workflow. Then we went to the message, which was doggy date night, which is like, hey, if you love your dog so much, really, your dog is your little furry soulmate. Shouldn't you go on a date with your dog and post it on social media? So that was the message that laddered to the time trigger, which was linked to Valentine's Day. And then we went to the persona, right? So then we started looking at the influencers that we could reach and what audiences. So these were a lot of pet lovers, of course, but there were certain types of pet lovers, right? We needed pet lovers that would be active on social, that would want to share stuff, that would want to show pictures of their dog. So all of that comes together to create a trending moment in time, but we led with the timing, and that created something that I don't think we could have created if we went with a traditional advertising workflow. Brings us to point number 4. And Jackson, any other comments or questions? I know, you're a great practitioner of calendar-based marketing too. You do a lot of things to help people with National Today who want to create new holidays or sponsor existing holidays. Any other sort of comments or questions based on your experience, Jackson, in working in these kind of moments that are peak times for converting consumers or customers?
Absolutely. So I'm looking through the chat right now, and we're talking about kind of what the biggest moments of activation are on the calendar. And for most of our attendees, I don't think this is entirely surprising. It's the holiday season. It's right around Christmas, Black Friday, kind of between Thanksgiving and the New Year. And I think one of the most interesting things, Ben, that we consider frequently with our clients who have a very strong seasonality is how do you capture the time when your competitors aren't doing anything, right? How do you capture the counter-cyclical? And I think that's probably one of the most valuable things from my own experience in sort of B2C marketing that I found is that frequently the ROI on those moments, if you can figure out a way to capture them in a big way, to win in a big way, it's frequently tremendous because there's just not a lot of noise out there. And if you can create a moment of urgency, you can win really big. And I also think there's probably something to taking a contrarian view on some of these things, depending on your industry. My mind goes to Patagonia, who started the opt outside movement and didn't offer any deals on Black Friday and famously just kind of urged people, instead of participating in Black Friday at all, to get outside and did so to great media effect.
Sure. So, well, I think it's a great point. And I actually think two things related to that. One of the things you can do with your drive period, if it's that holiday season, is you start to activate a little bit before it. You create time triggers before it to get you into market before there's too much noise. Some of that is the original reason for like a Black Friday or Cyber Monday until everyone started doing it. I can't reveal the brand right now because there's a lot of things going on, but for instance, there is a chocolate brand or candy brand that is our client. And one of the things that we're doing is we're moving up that window from Halloween. So we're looking at, okay, what are the triggers? What are the things that we could do in September, in an earlier point that's still relevant, that actually sets up Halloween? So I think you can go counter-cyclical to your point, Jackson, and be like, yeah, it's not traditionally, April's not a big month for us, but let's figure out a time trigger and a way we can use calendar-based marketing to activate April. But I also think you can look at your drive period and say, how do we get a little bit ahead of the cycle? How do we grab in and bring in consumers or B2B customers? And then how do we stay top of mind to drive through? And that's another really great use of these moments as well. I think the other thing that you can do is how do you, and this is why when you start thinking about countercyclical, is how do you find use cases for your product, for your brand, that allow you to play in other areas? So what this does, and when you start, and again, this is why calendar-based marketing is so powerful, because you start thinking with time as your first foundational element, and then you start thinking like, oh, we typically, let's say with this product, let's say your beauty product, target women, and it has this cycle. But if suddenly we think there's this other peak period, and it's around this other season that we don't really do well on, might we target men in a different way? Or we usually go millennial, but might we go younger or older? So when you start thinking about the time trigger, it actually might make you think more creatively about your audience or your persona. And yeah, Jackson, you have a comment?
Yeah, a question actually coming from Alan that I think is relevant, that I know we'll get to, but wanted to put in your head. He says, are there any examples of how this can be applied for B2B? This is something we've done before, and I know we could get more in depth on it. I've asked Alan just as a follow-up question, what exactly it is he does? What does he sell? What is it he's trying to market? But if you could speak to that generally going forward, I think that would that'd be helpful.
Sure.
He's
I think
packaging service, by the way.
I'm sorry, say that again.
He sells packaging as a service.
Packaging as a service, like packaging, like package a product or ship something or something like that. I'm guessing it sounds.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things on the B2B side. So a few things about understanding the B2B sales cycle. So one, there's a few other moments on the calendar for a typical B2B company that become great moments to leverage for calendar-based marketing. One of them we talked about already was their natural sort of planning cycle, right? How to be in where they're in their annual planning moment. So that's one important moment that it's related to their fiscal calendar, but it's like, when do they do the planning for that fiscal calendar? You want to activate around that time. So it's like, we have some clients that if they're on the calendar year, like, from January to December, they're like thinking about their annual plans in like August, September, it usually starts, and they usually drive so they can have those plans done by December. So that's one moment. Second thing for a B2B company is lots of events and conferences. Of course, during the pandemic right now, there may be like more virtual conferences, but still there's these moments where like they know there is a gathering that's important in their industry. So how do you start leveraging those calendar-based moments? Third is different retail, different B2B have different seasonal flows. So for instance, there's like a time that they're turning over their offerings, whether that's a product, whether that's a service. It's changing. It's the new year. It's version 2.0, not 1.0. Those become important moments. And then most notably, there are other factors like when reporting is done. So if they're a public company, quarterly earnings is hugely significant. If they are not a public company, but maybe it's board of directors meetings, they've got to report in. So all of those are like peak moments for a B2B company to understand, and then how do you activate on those moments, but you lead with the moments first. So hopefully that answers your question, but I think the effect is just as strong in B2B as it is in B2C. Brings us to point number 4, which is think digital first and integrate everywhere. One of the things about leading with time triggers and embracing calendar-based marketing is it's highly viral. And that's because not only is time a useful construct for advertising and marketing, but time is a primary driver and a sense of urgency of things like sharing, word of mouth, buzz building. All of these things that we kind of want as marketers is embedded in that time trigger. So it's really powerful calendar-based marketing. So we like to be digital because there's just less friction to share things, to spread things, to tell a friend. And then it's not just a digital campaign, then you integrate everywhere. So let me give you an example This is Singles Day and pre-Singles Day engagement. So before this is happening, they're engaging a ton of people with like online content, mobile content. But this is obviously pre-pandemic. They're also gathering people up at an event that's like a month before we even go. So they're leading with digital. Usually that's how they're engaging most of the people, but they're engaging offline too. And so I think that's why this idea of think digital first is powerful. How do you have your peak moments and really activate digitally at those peak moments? So let me give you an example from the current pandemic. Right now across our clients, I'd say across the board, 50% improvement in just like open rates of emails right now from pre-pandemic to now. Also, depending on industry, about 60 to 80% increase in click-through rate, right? So more people are clicking through. So if I had told you, you know, last year that, hey, there's gonna be this period in time, it's gonna be the middle of next year or spring to middle of next year, where everyone's gonna open their emails way more. They're gonna click through way more. Probably what you would have done is said, oh my gosh, let's reserve some ad budget. Let's leverage this. That's a great moment for us to engage in a digital way with our audience. And so that is actually what has happened with the pandemic. Of course, it's for a totally unfortunate and sad and troubling reason, the pandemic. But because everyone's staying at home and not traveling as much, we have higher digital engagement. So as a result, that's even a greater reason right now to think digital first, but then integrate everywhere. That's point number 4. And I'll get to like kind of the final couple 3 points and then wrap up with the most important thought of the day. Brings us to number 5. And the 5th way to maximize calendar-based marketing is to increase your viral velocity. Viral velocity is that speed at which a product, a brand, an idea, a cause, a service wants to spread. And let me give you, which I often talk a lot about, our paradigm for increasing viral velocity. And we basically, so what we'll do is we'll take this calendar-based moment, and this is how we think about how do we increase the virality of that moment. So the question is, what makes an idea easy to spread? And there's many things people often say. People often will throw out things like, oh, if it's funny, really love funny. Or other people will say, oh, if it's emotional. And other people say, well, if it makes me look good, it makes me look good, helps my personal brand, I want to spread it. And other people say it's, it stands out from the norm. Other people say like, it's relevant to me. These are all common answers. And that's all right. So what I would do is I would actually boil all of those things down to 3 things. And those 3 things are simple. You need something simple because if it's complex, even if it's brilliant, even if the product is amazing, it takes too long for people to explain it and tell someone else. It's hard to spread. Simplicity gives it a natural ability to be spread faster. And then it's got to be surprising. We all think we've heard about it before. Oh, isn't this special product just like that other thing that we heard of before? So it's got to be surprising. And finally, it's got to be significant. So you can be simple and surprising, but if you don't say anything, it doesn't have a greater purpose. And so this is your viral litmus test, whether this is your holiday activation campaign, whether this is your pre-holiday activation, whether this is counter-cyclical and you're going to make this moment in time in March or April to activate. Can your audience understand your message in less than 7 seconds? Does it defy your expectations in some way? And even for that example of the B2B packaging company, if packaging companies always talk about that in this way, always mention their benefits in this way, if it's a certain type of product that is always explained this way, how do you defy that? And then finally, does it convey a deeper truth? Does it say something important? So whatever moment in time you're activating, if you can make it more simple, more surprising, more significant, you can get more ROI from that moment in time. Brings us to way number 6, to leverage calendar-based marketing. And one of the powers of calendar-based marketing that has been really exploited by Alibaba is that it's a fantastic way to gather data. Why? Because all of this interest is concentrated in this moment in time. And so Alibaba actually has a data team that gathers data and consumer insights for the entire year. It's going to power their entire marketing throughout the year about which consumers which kind of products and have which kind of preferences. And so one of the things you can do is at these moments in time, make it a peak time, not only to sell, but also to gather data and to understand your customer. So one of the things when you embrace calendar-based marketing is not just about driving the sale, But like, let's at this moment ask people questions. Let's survey them. Let's understand if they have option A and option B, which do they pick and why? And let's gather that. And because we have such a high concentration of people engaging in content or commerce, it's a great time to gather data as well. So I think calendar-based marketing and data-driven marketing really go hand in hand. And the reason is because at these concentrated moments in time, you can gather a lot of really useful data all at once. Brings us to final point, point number 7, and then my big point of the day, which is kind of my bonus point. And that is develop a scalable holiday strategy. There is something special about holidays, and I think we intrinsically know, like, oh, it's like, you know, Christmas or the winter holiday season. This is a great time for commerce. But there's something special in how we're wired to leverage these holidays whenever they are throughout the calendar, just like all the ones we have on nationaltoday.com. And if you don't have a scalable strategy for calendar-based marketing and leveraging these holiday moments, you're missing out. And so let me give you some examples of how to do that. So there are 4 primary types of viral holidays. There are competitive holidays. Those are the biggest holidays of the year that everyone's doing, right? Halloween is a competitive holiday. There are amplified holidays. Those are under the radar holidays that already exist, but you can enhance them. So we didn't create National Drink Beer Day for Budweiser, but we amplified it. It was a little known holiday and we used it to make it more, right? We also didn't create National Eat What You Want Day for Postmates, but we used it. It was little known and we amplified and turned it into a big thing. So that's amplified holidays. Third type is potential holidays. They don't exist yet, but they could be created and positioned to drive relevance and engagement. Here's an example. One of our clients is Gosling's Rum, the Bermuda Rum. We created recently for them International Dark and Stormy Day. Why? Because their rum is used in a dark and stormy cocktail. And it had a potential audience. It was there because people like drinking dark and stormies and people like rum, but it hadn't been packaged in the right way. So we added it to the cultural calendar and activated to give them a moment in time that was unique. And then finally, brandable holidays. And brandable holidays are focused on that they're ownable by a brand, by a product. And you can be surprised that when you think about it, more brands have this than you think, right? Amazon Prime Day, right? That's a classic example. But did you also know there's National Barbie Day for the Barbie doll, or National Slurpee Day for your Slurpee at 7-Eleven, or many, many others that are around these, National Have a Coke Day for Coca-Cola. So those are all lots of big brands, but also there's other smaller brands that can also have these ownable moments and around, particularly when they're sort of defining a new category. So 4 types of viral holidays, and in your holiday plan, you should really leverage all of them: competitive, amplified, potential, and brandable. And let me show you some of these ownable moments that were actually created by brands. And I want to actually talk about the power of creating a holiday. So American Express in 2010 created Small Business Saturday, right? That's right during the Thanksgiving weekend, a time to reward and recognize small business. Amazon Prime, pretty recent, right? Pretty much copying Alibaba and Singles Day, created in 2015, Amazon Prime Day in July. And that's a great example of counter-cyclical, right? They don't need that in their holiday season. They're trying to activate Christmas in July by creating Amazon Prime Day. 7-Eleven created in 2002 National Slurpee Day. IHOP created in 2006 National Pancake Day. But by the way, there's 2. There's one that already existed and one that IHOP created for themselves because they needed something in an activation time in March. And this is a kind of a fun story of as a little side note of a little error we made on nationaltoday.com was we actually, I think it was like a year or 2 ago, got an urgent call from like the IHOP marketing department at nationaltoday.com, because we're the most popular platform. And they're like, oh my God, we have all these people going into our store asking for free pancakes, and it's tomorrow, not today. And actually what had happened is they had shifted the day by 1 day, didn't let other people know. It was on our calendar, and they were worried because Google was using us as the snippet for people like kind of looked up Pancake Day. It was saying it was 1 day different, and they weren't set up for it. And so we helped them correct it, and it was all good. But that was kind of a fun moment of why these days have great power. So let me take you through what usually happens when you create a holiday. It usually requires many steps. Like you have to come up with the holiday concept, you have to choose the optimal date, you have to have a strategy to engage, you need a marketing budget, you need digital assets or a microsite, you need a PR and influencer program, you need a social media program. So those are all the steps. So one of the things we've done at National Today is we've made it simpler. So whether you use National Day platform or use something else, here's how you can simplify. So let's talk about this. Here's how to create a holiday in 6 simple steps. Number 1, register in a place of authority. We built National Today for this purpose, but you basically just need some people attesting to the fact that this exists. I'll talk about how you can do that on nationaltoday.com, or you just do that by seeding it with a few key people in an industry or a vertical. Second thing you do is you boost it on digital platforms. So one of the things you do is you just need a record of truth, and it doesn't have to be in a printed book. There used to be this book called like Chase's Calendar of Events. No one really uses it anymore. Instead, digital is a source of truth. So you need it someplace on a digital platform where people can verify, oh yeah, this is a thing. Third, you seed it with key influencers. So what you do, and we have at nationaltoday.com, we have actually an influencer network of more than 4,000 influencers that just want to celebrate holidays. And so you seed it with basically the people who are going to be the first people celebrating it that other people are going to see, and you influence others to celebrate the holiday. 4, you share it on social media. So social media is useful with holidays. Why? Because social media is naturally orientated into what is happening now, right? When you tweet, or when you share something on Facebook about your day, or if it's something that goes away, like an Instagram story or a Snapchat, or it's a little, funny video like TikTok or something else, social media is kind of predisposed to have these moments. And so you share it on social, and that's why even organically on social media, some of these holidays, we get more than 1 million organic shares of our posts. So you seed it on social media. 5, you amplify it with mass media PR. So one of the cool things about it is that, morning shows like radio stations, breakfast TV on local TV stations, other kinds of, we do a ton of food holidays with Delish, if you know that online publication. Because the media is so time-oriented, the entire media industry is based on it. If you ever want to do earned media and you want it to be easier, if you take a calendar-based marketing approach, you combine it with mass media, earned media PR, it works so well together because the media industry naturally actually thinks in a calendar-based way. What happens today, they need something else to report tomorrow, and it's got to be different than yesterday. So you amplify it with mass media. And then finally, drive to a clear call to action. Actually, this is an example of get a free Big Mac on National Eat What You Want Day, which we were doing for Postmates to drive really low customer acquisition for them if you're a new customer, to give you a reason, like, basically delivering someone a free Big Mac was a super easy way to get a customer for like 1/10 the price of their normal customer acquisition. So whatever you're doing, don't forget the clear call to action. And what I would argue is that when you leverage calendar-based marketing, when you leverage some of these time triggers, it's not just a call to action, it's a vCTA. It's a viral call to action because you embed loss aversion and many other emotions into that call to action. So there you have it. That's how to create a holiday. And we've created holidays for Budweiser and Laffy Taffy and Milk-Bone and, more serious topics like poli-science on the B2B side, or PetMate or Postmates, you name it. And so that's a great tool in your toolbox. So I think have a holiday strategy. Don't forget competitive or amplified holidays as well. Have those ownable and those created holidays. But this is a great tool to have more ownable moments. And here's the little secret. When you create a holiday, you can create it how you like it. And there's a great advantage in that because you can put it to your drive period, make it unique to you, associate it with yourself. And one of the biggest mistakes that people do when they make this, I will end with my final thought of the day. The biggest mistake you can avoid in leveraging calendar-based marketing. So Jackson, before we wrap up with that and a few final thoughts, any final kind of questions or comments or concerns from the audience and of course you as well?
Well, Alan is wondering, he says, this looks like
Alan is prolific. Thank you, Alan, for participating. That's great.
Absolutely. And I will say, anyone else, if you have questions, feel free to drop in the chat. We're going to answer Alan's question now, but would love to hear from the rest of you if you have any questions or anything you'd love to hear more about. Alan is wondering, he said, this looks like it's a USA thing to have so many days. Have you tried other markets? I know we've had some tremendous successes internationally, but wanted to put that to you, Ben.
Okay, that's a great comment. Maybe why you do that, if this has been useful to you and interesting, I do every week new marketing related topics. And I think the YouTube channel is a great way to get all of this. I mean, we've done the new rules of PR, the new rules of SEO, the power of scalable link building, pivot, don't pause, how to grow during a pandemic. These are some of the topics we do. So Jackson, if you don't mind putting the link to that in the chat, YouTube is the best way to subscribe and stay up to date. Now, the point you're actually saying, which is a great question, which is this US focused? Actually, not at all. Not at all. This happens all over the world. On the platform, we have all kinds of people activating, first of all, in English-speaking countries, whether that's UK or Australia or Canada or New Zealand or Ireland or all those places. But also, as I mentioned, Singles Day, the biggest granddaddy of them all, that's actually in China, right? Black Friday, we've seen that celebrated all over. I mean, it actually was big, huge in Nordic countries. France, it's actually become a big thing. Black Friday, it's a known event. So these holidays work great. There are a bunch of international holidays that are super useful. We've created some. International Exercise from Home Day, we created for Bowflex, one of our clients. They work all over the world. I have found it's not a cultural specific thing. People like to connect with others. I think we're hardwired for that. And one of the ways that we connect is at moments in time when we can have shared experience. And that's why these holidays are so powerful all around the world. So the YouTube channel, more on this. I think you can subscribe. It would be great. Would love to hear that. Also, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. And then I'll give you my final most important mistake to avoid. So on LinkedIn, here's a little trick. You can either type in that address or just take your phone, hold it up to my QR code right there. And if you go to the mobile app, and click on that, it's right there on the screen, that little icon that has the QR code. You can scan someone else's and it will take you right to that page. Send me a request and just say, attended your webinar, tell me which one. And anyone who does that, I will accept the request and we can connect and discuss more online. All coming up for the next couple of weeks, I'm doing a lot of content related to calendar-based marketing. So if that's useful to you, you can kind of receive that and maybe it will help you kind of save some time in implementing this. And then finally, happy to chat with you. That's my personal email address. As I mentioned, top global. We have 12 different agencies. PR Hacker is one of them. So that's a handy email address to get to me at ben.kaplan@prhacker.com. And let me end on the final thought of the day and the biggest mistake that I think people make when they implement calendar-based marketing. So we've talked today about the power of calendar-based marketing. But one of the things that is special about it is that you have to, yes, embrace it, but you also have to let go a little bit to truly maximize it. And the example I use is when you create these holidays or these special moments like we've done for dozens of brands, the tendency is, okay, we want it just for us. It's ours. You know, don't let anyone else participate. Show that it's just for us. Trademark it. Maybe you want to do that, but you don't necessarily have to limit it. Don't let others participate. Send a cease and desist letter if someone tries to use our moment. And actually, I think that's the biggest mistake brands and companies make, whether in the B2C or B2B space, because they're excited about these moments. They put a lot of effort and they want to own them. But some of the power of calendar-based marketing is that you let others participate. It's good for you if competitors can participate. It's good for you if people figure out a different way to celebrate this and a different way to leverage it, because they help you spread it. They help you amplify it. And you know what? When you're the creator and you do it in a strategic way, it's all going to come back to you anyway. So competitor wants to leverage your day like JD.com for Alibaba, all the better. Let them advertise on it. Let them market it. Let them turn it into a big thing, because we created it and it's all going to come right back to us. So the biggest mistake people make with calendar-based marketing is that they're excited about it, but they try to control it. And instead, if you open it up, if you get more people engaged, if you leverage social media and influencer marketing and earned media PR, if you think leading with time triggers first, then messaging, then the right people, and work differently than the traditional advertising workflow, you can realize incredible gains. It can supercharge your ROI and marketing, and you can really dramatically improve your results even during a crisis time like we're in now. So that's the power of calendar-based marketing. My name is Ben Kaplan. I'm happy to engage with you online, answer questions, give you more examples. And thank you for attending, and hope to see you at next week's webinar. For now, subscribe at YouTube, and I wish you all that kind of success.